Wario Master Disguise really shows how just a couple of issues can really tank a game's enjoyability. Now, I love the Wario Land games, especially 2 and 3, they're some of my favourite games of all time. So I remember many years back, I saw a copy of Wario Master Disguise in a shop, and I was like, oh, another Wario platformer, that looks interesting, so I bought it. And the first time playing through it, I thought it was okay, and then later on I played it again, and those problems really stuck out and made it much less enjoyable. So the core gameplay is just a puzzle platformer, again like the Wario Land games, and that puzzle platform is fairly tight. It's a lot more slower paced, and there's a lot less emphasis on precision platforming, but it still works. I mean, the areas are generally bigger, there's more to explore, more to sort of figure out, less linear, but no, it still works pretty well. Unfortunately, the game has a more restrictive control scheme than Wario Land, and that's because obviously you need one hand for the buttons and you need one hand for the stylus because of the touchscreen. And that does mean the platforming tends to be a bit more simple, and there's a lot less stuff based on timing. Graphically, the game looks fine, there's a lot of decent pixel art, a lot of weird looking stuff, it suits Wario. Wario is a weird character after all.
Who do you think you are, Buster?
The music is alright as well, I mean, nothing particularly memorable for the most part, and it does give me sort of flashback to MIDI music back from like the 90s, but it works. So for the most part the game works really well, there's a couple of elements that just really let it down. The first one are the touchscreen controls. They're incredibly hit and miss. In the game you pick up disguises, which kind of act like the transformations back in the Wario Land games, which is quite nice. And to change the disguises, you have to draw a shape over Wario's head, and it's very unreliable. Sometimes you draw a shape and he will change to the wrong disguise, or he just won't change at all. If you're doing a part of a level that's timed, it makes it downright obnoxious, because you may just have to restart again and again and again until you get it right, until the game decides to basically give you the right disguise. I understand that this game was made during an era where Nintendo basically forced developers to use the touchscreen, but I think they could have used it in more reliable, accurate ways. It seems like the easier option would have been to have a menu that pops up when you touch one of the shoulder buttons. You touch the shoulder button, menu pops up, you touch the disguise you want, Wario changes, and then you let go of the button and it's done. No more having to draw a shape, no more having to hope you get the right disguise. It does it very accurately. I mean, the shoulder buttons aren't used anyway, so gives them a use as well. Now, that's not to say all the touchscreen controls are bad, some of them actually really do work. For example, with Spaceman Wario, if you touch on the screen, he'll shoot where you're pointing, and that is a perfect application of the touchscreen. It's reliable and it's simple. It just works. And it's a shame the game didn't have more of that. The touchscreen issues are enough of a problem, but what really bogs the game down are the mini-games. There's loads of chests in the game, and every time you open one up you have to complete a minigame. To be quite blunt, these minigames are just not very good. I get the impression that they wanted to sort of copy the WarioWare games, but I think they missed the point of the WarioWare games, that they're like 4-second games that are kind of like so simple. Here, the games go on for like 20 seconds and they're not interesting in the slightest. Now, the minigames are not fun, but what really makes it repetitive is how often you'll be doing them. It almost borders on comical, and they just kind of grate on you after a while. Like, there's nothing about them that's fun. In fact, there's actually the option to play the minigames separately between levels, and I think it's quite an audacious option. Like, who's honestly going to want to play these? And as time goes on, the minigames get harder, so you have to technically play them more and more, because you're probably going to fail them now and then. The minigames wouldn't be a problem so much if they were just now and then, but they are all the time. Those chests litter the levels. So yeah, touchscreen issues and obnoxious minigames. I think these two elements unfortunately really bog the game down and make it, I wouldn't say not unplayable, just really obnoxious. And I think that alone makes the game something I can't honestly recommend. And it's a shame, because it's really just a couple of issues. The puzzle platforming is actually quite strong and quite interesting and quite fun. But the mini-games and the dodgy touchscreen controls completely tank it. This is a bit of a side note, but I would love it if somebody was to mod this game and fix those issues. You know, maybe have a menu pop up for the disguises, and maybe just downright disable the minigames. You know, people can mod anything these days. I feel like there must be at least one person who'd be capable of doing this. It's probably never going to happen. Nobody watches my videos anyway, and I don't think anyone can be bothered with this game. But yeah, that's my challenge to someone out there. And thanks for watching. I read that apparently saying don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, actually generally does encourage most people to do it, so I'm not going to say that.